Most people believe genius is unbeatable, a person with a sharper mind, a faster thinker, someone who seems to see solutions before anyone else even understands the problem. So the average person does something predictable. They step back. They assume the smartest person in the room will always win. But if history has proven anything, it is this: raw intelligence does not control the world. Strategic minds do. There have been countless brilliant thinkers who lost influence, lost opportunities, and lost power. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because they misunderstood something deeper. They misunderstood how the human mind actually works. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this better than most philosophers in history. He observed leaders, advisors, rivals, and opportunists, and what he discovered was unsettling. The people who quietly shaped outcomes were not always the most intelligent people in the room. They were the people who understood psychology, timing, perception, and emotional control. They rewired the way their minds responded to pressure. Because here is the uncomfortable truth most people ignore: a genius who reacts emotionally can be manipulated. A genius who reveals frustration can be predicted. A genius who thinks only about logic can be strategically outmaneuvered. But a mind trained to observe quietly, control reactions, and move with intention becomes extremely difficult to defeat. This video is not about becoming a genius. It is about something far more dangerous. It is about rewiring how your brain operates. When your thinking changes, your reactions change. When your reactions change, your decisions become sharper. And when your decisions become sharper, people start noticing something about you they cannot quite explain. You stop reacting like everyone else. You start seeing patterns before they appear. You start understanding people before they understand themselves. And that is where real psychological advantage begins. In this video, we will break down 10 powerful psychological rewiring techniques inspired by Machiavellian thinking that allow an ordinary mind to outmaneuver even the most brilliant thinker in the room. Not through louder arguments, not through intellectual competition, but through strategic awareness, emotional discipline, and mental positioning. Because the goal is not to prove you are the smartest person. The goal is to become the person no one can easily outplay. And once you begin thinking this way, something strange happens. You stop trying to win conversations. You start quietly controlling the direction of the game itself. Now, before we begin the first strategy, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments: strategic mind activated. Because from this point forward, we are not sharpening intelligence. We are rewiring the mind. Number 1, build strategic awareness. Many people walk into a room already defeated. They see someone who speaks faster, explains ideas more elegantly, or recalls information instantly, and they immediately assume they are outmatched. In that moment, their mind shifts into a losing position. They begin trying to prove they are intelligent. They speak more, they explain more, they argue harder. But this reaction reveals a misunderstanding of how influence actually works. Highly intelligent individuals expect intellectual competition. That environment is comfortable for them. They enjoy complex discussion because it is the arena where their abilities naturally shine. When you challenge them purely on intelligence, you are stepping directly into their strongest territory. Strategic thinkers avoid that mistake. Instead of trying to outshine brilliance, they observe the entire situation from a higher angle. They notice dynamics others ignore. They watch who is influencing the room. They pay attention to tone, timing, and emotional undercurrents. Where others focus only on facts, the strategic mind studies human behavior. This shift changes everything, because intelligence solves problems, but awareness controls outcomes. A genius might understand the technical details of a discussion perfectly, yet still miss the emotional reactions unfolding around them. They might fail to notice tension, ego, insecurity, or silent resistance building inside the room. The strategic mind notices all of it. While others are concentrating on being correct, the strategic thinker is quietly studying how people are responding. Who is agreeing? Who is uncomfortable? Who is trying to dominate attention? This awareness allows you to position your words with precision. You speak less, but when you do speak, the moment is chosen carefully. Your timing carries weight. Your words land with clarity because they arrive exactly when the room is ready to hear them. This is the quiet advantage Machiavelli understood. People rarely remember who sounded the smartest. They remember who seemed calm, deliberate, and impossible to read. When you stop chasing intellectual superiority, your mind becomes free to focus on what truly matters, understanding the structure of the interaction itself. And once you begin seeing those hidden dynamics, you gain something far more valuable than intelligence. You gain control of positioning. From that moment forward, conversations stop being competitions. They become environments you can subtly guide. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Strategy over intelligence. Number 2. Think beyond the moment. Most people live inside the present second. Something happens, and they respond immediately. A comment is made, and they answer without pause. A challenge appears, and they react instinctively. Their mind operates like a reflex system, fast, emotional, and often careless. This habit creates a dangerous limitation. When you only think in the present moment, you are always playing catch-up. By the time you react, the situation has already moved forward. Strategic thinkers refuse to operate this way. They train their minds to stretch beyond the immediate exchange. While others are reacting to what just happened, they are already imagining what will happen next. This subtle difference separates ordinary thinking from calculated thinking. Imagine a conversation where someone is trying to assert dominance or display intellectual superiority. Most people become focused on defending themselves in that moment. They search for the perfect comeback. They try to prove they are just as capable. But the strategic mind does something different. It pauses internally and asks a deeper question. Where is this interaction going? Not what was said, not how it sounded, but where it is leading. Every action has a direction. Every statement creates a chain of reactions. When you begin thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead, you stop becoming trapped inside the emotional pressure of the moment. Instead, you begin steering the direction of the exchange. You might allow someone to speak longer than expected, knowing that extended talk often exposes overconfidence. You might delay your response, allowing tension to build before introducing a simple statement that redirects the discussion. The key is not speed, it is anticipation. Fast thinkers react quickly. Strategic thinkers react deliberately because they have already examined the possible outcomes. This ability transforms the way your mind operates. You stop feeling rushed. You stop feeling pressured to answer immediately. Instead, you begin to see the invisible path that every conversation, decision, or interaction is moving toward. And once you can see that path, you gain something powerful. You gain the ability to position yourself where the situation will arrive, not where it currently stands. This is why some individuals appear strangely composed even in complicated environments. Their calm is not accidental. Their mind is already operating several steps further ahead. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I think ahead. Number 3. Master the discipline of emotional neutrality. One of the fastest ways to lose psychological advantage is to let your emotions announce what is happening inside your mind. Most people do this constantly without realizing it. A raised eyebrow reveals doubt. A quick smile shows satisfaction. A sudden change in tone exposes irritation. In everyday interactions, these signals might seem harmless, but in environments where influence, persuasion, and positioning matter, emotional leakage becomes valuable information for anyone paying attention. Your reactions become clues. They tell others when you feel confident. They reveal when you feel challenged. They expose when something has unsettled you. And once people understand your emotional triggers, they gain the ability to push them. Strategic thinkers understand this principle very clearly. They treat emotional control as a form of mental armor, not because they lack feelings, but because they refuse to let those feelings guide the visible surface of their behavior. A composed exterior creates uncertainty. When your reactions remain steady, others struggle to interpret what is happening inside your mind. They cannot easily tell whether their words affected you, whether their argument succeeded, or whether their attempt to provoke you has failed. That uncertainty quietly shifts the balance of psychological power. Imagine two people in a tense conversation. One reacts instantly, defending, explaining, raising their voice slightly as they try to maintain control. The other remains calm, measured, and unhurried. Their face shows very little change. Their tone remains steady. Without saying a word about authority, the second person has already changed the emotional atmosphere of the interaction. The first person begins to feel pressure. They wonder if they have misjudged the situation. They begin speaking more, trying to force a reaction that never comes. In the process, they reveal more about their own thinking than they intended. This is the silent advantage of emotional neutrality. It keeps your mind clear while allowing others to expose themselves through their own reactions. Machiavelli observed that the individuals who shaped outcomes most effectively were rarely the loudest voices in the room. They were the ones who appeared steady, patient, and difficult to provoke. Their strength came from control. When you master this discipline, something subtle begins to happen. You stop being pulled into emotional turbulence created by other people. Their frustration no longer dictates your behavior. Their attempts to provoke you lose their effectiveness. You become the calm center of the interaction, and calm minds make sharper decisions. Before we move forward, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. Calm is power. Number 4. Turn simplicity into authority. Many people assume intelligence must sound complicated. They believe that the more detailed their explanation is, the more impressive they will appear. So they build long arguments, layered with complex language, technical terms, and endless reasoning. At first, this may sound impressive, but something strange happens inside the minds of the listeners. Confusion begins to grow. When ideas become too dense, people stop following the logic. Their attention drifts. Instead of remembering the argument, they remember the feeling of mental exhaustion. And when the conversation ends, almost no one can repeat what was actually said. Strategic thinkers understand a powerful truth that many brilliant minds overlook. Clarity creates influence. When a message is simple, it becomes memorable. When it is memorable, it becomes repeatable. And when people repeat your idea, it begins shaping the entire environment around you. This is why the most influential voices throughout history often spoke in direct, clean statements rather than complicated lectures. A clear sentence can travel farther than a complicated explanation. Imagine a discussion where someone is delivering a long, intricate analysis. They may be correct in every detail, but their message requires intense effort to follow. People listen politely, but inside their minds, they are struggling to keep track of the argument. Then someone else speaks. They offer one calm sentence that captures the entire situation in plain language. Suddenly, the room becomes quiet. Heads nod slightly. The complicated explanation fades into the background because the simple statement feels easier to hold on to. That moment is where authority begins to form. Simplicity signals confidence. When you speak with clarity, you demonstrate that you understand the subject deeply enough to express it without hiding behind complexity. Your words carry weight because they are direct and intentional. Strategic thinkers train themselves to compress their thoughts before they speak. They remove unnecessary language. They focus on the core insight that others can immediately grasp. This does not mean thinking less. It means thinking more carefully before expressing the idea. When your words are precise and controlled, people begin to pay closer attention. They sense that when you speak, it will matter. Over time, this creates a powerful reputation. You become the person whose sentences stay in people's minds long after the conversation ends. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Clarity is power. Number 5. Use silence as a psychological tool. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. The moment a pause appears in a conversation, they rush to fill it. They begin explaining more than necessary. They add extra details. They try to keep the interaction moving because the quiet space between words feels awkward. But that instinct quietly weakens their position. When someone speaks continuously, they reveal too much. Their thoughts spill out before they have time to shape them. Their words expose uncertainty, impatience, or the desire to impress. Strategic thinkers recognize that silence is not empty. Silence creates pressure. When you resist the urge to speak immediately, something subtle begins to happen inside the other person's mind. The pause forces them to confront uncertainty. They begin wondering what you are thinking. They start questioning whether they have said too much or too little. That quiet moment becomes a mirror, reflecting their own thoughts back at them. Imagine someone presenting an idea with confidence. They finish speaking and expect an instant response. Instead of reacting quickly, you remain still for a few seconds. Your expression stays composed. Your eyes remain attentive, but your words do not arrive immediately. Those few seconds feel longer than they actually are. The person who spoke begins to feel a slight tension building in the air. Their mind starts analyzing your silence. They may begin explaining their point further, trying to strengthen what they already said. Sometimes they reveal weaknesses or doubts that were not visible before. You did not ask for more information. Silence invited it. This is why experienced negotiators, leaders, and observers often allow moments of quiet to appear naturally in conversations. They understand that people reveal more when they feel the need to fill the space themselves. Silence also protects your own thinking. When you do not rush your response, your mind gains time to observe. You can evaluate tone, intention, and the direction of the interaction. Your reply becomes more deliberate because it is chosen, not forced. Over time, this habit changes how others perceive you. You begin to appear thoughtful, controlled, and difficult to rush. People sense that your words will come only when they matter. That expectation alone increases the weight of what you eventually say. The room grows quieter when you speak, because silence has already prepared people to listen. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. Silence creates power. Number 6. Read behavior, not promises. Most people make a critical mistake when judging others. They listen to words. Someone speaks confidently, makes impressive claims, or promises future results, and the average mind immediately begins forming trust around those statements. Language feels persuasive because it is designed to sound convincing, but strategic thinkers learn a very different rule. Words are flexible, behavior is consistent. Anyone can craft an explanation that sounds intelligent. Anyone can describe plans, intentions, or future outcomes that make them appear capable. But spoken statements often reflect what someone wants to project, not what they will actually do. If you want to understand a person accurately, you must watch patterns rather than sentences. Patterns reveal truth. Observe how someone handles pressure. Notice how they react when they gain a small amount of influence. Pay attention to how they treat people who cannot offer them immediate advantage. These moments expose character far more clearly than polished speech ever will. Machiavelli paid close attention to this principle while studying leaders and advisors. He noticed that many individuals spoke about loyalty, discipline, and commitment. Yet when circumstances shifted, their actions told a completely different story. The gap between speech and behavior is where strategic awareness lives. When you train your mind to observe patterns, conversations begin to look different. Instead of being absorbed by what someone says, you quietly measure whether their actions match their claims. Do they follow through when it matters? Do they remain consistent when conditions become difficult? Or do their choices change depending on who is watching? These observations create a deeper form of intelligence, one based on evidence rather than persuasion. Once you see patterns clearly, predicting future behavior becomes much easier. People rarely change their fundamental habits overnight. Their reactions under stress, their approach to responsibility, and their treatment of others tend to repeat over time. This knowledge allows you to make better decisions about trust, cooperation, and distance. You stop being impressed by impressive language. Instead, you become attentive to consistency. And consistency is far harder to fake. When you develop this ability, something interesting happens. Situations that once seemed confusing begin to feel predictable. The hidden structure of people's behavior slowly becomes visible. At that point, you are no longer reacting blindly to what others say. You are interpreting what they actually reveal. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Actions reveal truth. Number 7. Control the rhythm of the interaction. Most conversations move at a pace that no one questions. Someone speaks, another person responds instantly, the exchange accelerates, and soon everyone is reacting faster than they are thinking. The environment becomes quick, energetic, and emotionally charged. In that kind of atmosphere, the loudest or fastest thinker often appears dominant. But speed can also create chaos. When discussions move too quickly, people begin responding out of instinct rather than intention. Their thoughts become rushed. Their statements become less precise. In trying to keep up with the tempo, they sacrifice clarity. Strategic thinkers recognize something subtle about this pattern. Whoever controls the rhythm of an interaction quietly controls the environment itself. Instead of allowing conversations to rush forward uncontrollably, they introduce calm pacing. They listen fully before responding. They allow small pauses between statements. Their voice remains steady rather than hurried. At first, this may seem like a minor adjustment, but it changes the psychological atmosphere of the entire exchange. When one person remains composed while others move quickly, attention naturally shifts toward the calmer presence. The slower rhythm begins to influence the room. People start listening more carefully. The conversation gradually adjusts to the pace that feels most stable. This effect happens because human minds subconsciously seek balance. When tension rises through rapid speech and quick reactions, a steady voice becomes a center of gravity. Strategic thinkers use this to their advantage. They do not rush their sentences. They choose their timing carefully. When an important moment appears, they allow a brief pause before speaking, giving their words more space to land. That pause signals thoughtfulness. It shows that their response is deliberate rather than impulsive. This subtle control of tempo creates authority without needing to raise your voice or dominate the conversation aggressively. Others begin adjusting themselves around your rhythm. They slow down. They become more attentive. They recognize that your responses carry weight because they are not delivered impulsively. Over time, this pattern builds a powerful reputation. You become known as someone who cannot be rushed, pressured, or pushed into careless reactions. Your presence changes the atmosphere simply by introducing steadiness into environments where others feel compelled to move quickly. When you control the rhythm, you influence the entire flow of interaction. And when you influence the flow, you quietly shape the direction of outcomes. Before we move forward, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I control the pace. Number 8. Guard your mental energy. One of the quiet advantages of strategic thinkers is not simply intelligence, but conservation. Most people spend their mental strength on things that bring no real return. They debate endlessly with people who are not interested in understanding. They react to every criticism, every challenge, every unnecessary conflict that crosses their path. At the end of the day, their mind feels exhausted, not because they solved meaningful problems, but because they scattered their attention in too many directions. Mental energy is not unlimited. Every decision you make, every argument you enter, every emotional reaction you allow, drains a small portion of your cognitive resources. When that energy is wasted repeatedly, your ability to think clearly begins to weaken. Strategic minds understand that attention is a form of power. Where you place it determines how effectively your brain can operate. Instead of reacting to every stimulus, they become selective. They ask themselves a quiet question before engaging in something that demands mental effort. Is this worth my focus? If the answer is no, they simply step away. This restraint often surprises people. Others may expect a response, a defense, or an emotional reaction. When none arrives, the situation loses momentum. The noise fades because it no longer has an audience. Protecting your mental energy allows you to stay sharp when it actually matters. When an important decision appears, your mind remains clear rather than fatigued. When a complex situation requires analysis, you have the cognitive strength to examine it carefully instead of reacting impulsively. This habit also changes how others perceive you. When you stop engaging in every unnecessary conflict, people begin to notice that your attention is limited and deliberate. Your words become rarer, but they also become more meaningful. Silence in trivial matters creates authority in important moments. Machiavelli observed that individuals who preserved their focus often made the most decisive moves. While others were distracted by endless small disputes, these thinkers remained attentive to the larger picture. They saved their energy for the moments that shaped outcomes. When you adopt this mindset, something interesting happens. You begin to feel less mentally scattered. Situations that once drained you lose their grip because you are no longer feeding them attention. Your mind becomes quieter, and a quiet mind can concentrate with far greater precision. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My focus is power. Number 9. Shape perception before you speak. Many people believe influence begins when you start talking. They focus on crafting clever arguments, collecting facts, and preparing explanations that sound intelligent. They assume that if their reasoning is strong enough, people will naturally accept what they say. But human psychology rarely works that way. Long before a single sentence is spoken, people are already forming judgments. They observe posture, composure, eye contact, tone, and presence. Within seconds, the mind begins constructing an impression about who you are. That impression quietly determines how seriously your ideas will be taken. Strategic thinkers understand that perception comes first. When people perceive someone as calm, confident, and deliberate, their words automatically carry more weight. The same sentence spoken by two different individuals can create completely different reactions depending on how those individuals are perceived. Imagine two people entering a discussion. One appears restless. Their body language shifts constantly. Their voice sounds slightly rushed, as if they feel pressure to prove themselves quickly. Even if their argument is logical, listeners subconsciously sense uncertainty. Now imagine another person speaking slowly and with controlled presence. Their posture remains steady. Their voice carries quiet certainty. They do not seem eager to impress anyone in the room. Before the second person even finishes their first sentence, the room already feels different. People lean in slightly. They listen more carefully. Their perception of authority has already been shaped. This is why strategic thinkers invest attention in the signals they project before engaging in conversation. They regulate their breathing, maintain relaxed posture, and allow their voice to remain measured rather than hurried. These subtle adjustments send a powerful message. They signal control, and control attracts attention. Machiavelli often emphasized the importance of appearances in shaping influence. Not because appearances replace substance, but because perception determines whether substance will even be heard. If people perceive you as uncertain, they will question your ideas before evaluating them. If they perceive you as composed, they become more open to what you say. This principle transforms the way you approach interactions. Instead of focusing only on what you will say, you begin paying attention to how you are experienced by others. Your presence becomes intentional. Your movements become deliberate. Your voice becomes steady. When perception is aligned with calm authority, your ideas travel farther and land stronger. Number 10. Become unpredictable to the predictable mind. Highly intelligent people often rely on one powerful advantage: pattern recognition. They study behavior, analyze logic, and quickly learn how others usually respond in different situations. Once they detect a pattern, they begin predicting what will happen next. Most people unknowingly make this very easy. They react the same way every time. Their responses follow familiar habits. Their decisions repeat the same emotional patterns again and again. After a short period of observation, anyone paying attention can begin predicting their behavior. And once someone becomes predictable, they become easy to outmaneuver. Strategic thinkers avoid falling into this trap. They remain consistent in their values and discipline, but their methods are flexible. They do not allow their responses to become mechanical. Instead, they adjust their approach depending on the situation in front of them. This creates a powerful psychological effect. When someone cannot predict how you will respond, their confidence begins to weaken. The mental models they built to understand you start breaking down. They hesitate because their expectations are no longer reliable. That hesitation creates opportunity. Imagine two individuals interacting over time. One behaves exactly the same way in every discussion. Their tone, reactions, and decisions follow a stable pattern. Eventually, the other person learns how to anticipate each move before it happens. But now, imagine someone whose thinking is calm, yet adaptable. Sometimes they answer immediately. Other times, they pause and observe longer. Occasionally, they redirect a conversation in an unexpected direction. Their behavior remains composed, but their responses are not easily predicted. The observer struggles to map them. Every attempt to anticipate the next step feels uncertain. This is where psychological advantage begins to emerge. Unpredictability forces others to spend more mental energy trying to understand you. Their attention becomes focused on analyzing your potential reactions rather than advancing their own strategy. In many situations, that extra cognitive pressure is enough to disrupt their clarity. Machiavelli often observed that individuals who could not be easily read were far more difficult to control. When your intentions and reactions remain partially hidden, people approach you with caution. They cannot assume what you will do next. And that uncertainty quietly strengthens your position. When you cultivate this mindset, you stop moving through interactions on autopilot. Your responses become thoughtful rather than habitual. You remain steady, but never obvious. Before we move to the final message of this video, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I am unpredictable. Most people spend their lives chasing intelligence. They read more books, collect more information, and try to sound more knowledgeable than the people around them. They believe that if they can become the smartest person in the room, they will naturally gain influence. But the world rarely works that way. History has shown us something far more interesting. Many brilliant minds remained invisible, while others with quieter intelligence shaped decisions, guided outcomes, and influenced entire environments. The difference was never just knowledge. The difference was how the mind was trained to operate. What you have seen in this video are not tricks for sounding smarter. These are shifts in mental architecture. When you begin applying them, your thinking changes in subtle but powerful ways. You stop reacting to every stimulus around you. You start observing more carefully. You begin noticing patterns in behavior, tension in conversations, and opportunities hidden beneath ordinary interactions. Your mind becomes calmer but sharper. Your words become fewer but more deliberate. And slowly, people start experiencing something unusual when they interact with you. They cannot easily read your reactions. They cannot predict your next move. They sense a level of awareness that feels different from the usual noise of quick opinions and emotional responses. This is the quiet strength Machiavelli understood centuries ago. Power does not always belong to the loudest voice or the fastest thinker. Very often, it belongs to the person who sees the situation more clearly than everyone else. When your mind becomes disciplined, when your reactions become intentional, and when your awareness expands beyond the surface of every interaction, you begin operating on a different level. At that point, competing with intelligence becomes unnecessary. Because you're no longer trying to out-talk anyone. You're quietly understanding the entire structure of the game. And once you see the structure clearly, something important happens. You stop trying to win every moment. You start positioning yourself to win the outcome. If this video shifted something in the way you think, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who values strategic thinking. Because here, we don't just talk about motivation. We study the architecture of power inside the mind.